Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we will delve into the sculpting and painting section of the web-based program SCULPTGL. In the sculpting and painting section we can use different tools to shape the object. Before going on detail about the single tools, let's see the settings that can be adjusted and selected while using most of them. The first setting is radius, and with this option we can adjust and select the size of our tool. We can increase the dimension of the tool using this slider, going to the right to increase and to the left to decrease. Next to the word radius, we find the letter X. This means that by holding down the X key, we can select the dimension of the tool by moving the mouse. Below the radius we have the intensity setting. With this slider we can select how strongly the tool will leave the mark on the object. Let's take an example. So this is a mark with a high intensity and this is a mark with low intensity. Next to the word intensity, we find the letter C. Just like the radius function, we just need to hold down the C key and move the mouse to define the intensity that we want to apply to the tool. Changing the intensity of the tool is very useful to defining details, especially those applied to the surface. The next option, called negative, allows us to trace and shape by adding or removing material. In this case, with the brush tool, it is as if I were making a relief on the object. By ticking the negative box, we are going to dig inside the model. Unlike the previous options like radius and intensity, next to the word negative, we have the N key or Alt key. By clicking on N key, the negative function will be activated and deactivated. The second way to activate the negative function is to hold down the Alt or Option key while moving the mouse. So with the Alt or Option key, we can activate the negative function only temporarily. The options below the negative function are specific to the tool currently in use. In the section named Alpha, it is possible to work with a texture, selecting it from those proposed by the program, like square and skin, or we can import a texture that we like in JPEG and PNG format. We can also lock position to be able to work in the same point that we have selected. In the section named Common, the first setting is Symmetry. This tool allows us to sculpt or paint the model symmetrically. By deactivating the Symmetry command, we can freely draw as we like. The Continuous setting allows us to work even when the cursor is stuck in one point. So let's take an example. This is a mark with continuous setting activated, and this is a mark with continuous setting deactivated. In this drop-down menu, next to Tool, we look at the different tools offered. The brush is probably one of the simplest but also most useful tools that we are going to use. We can use the brush as if we were drawing by adding material on the object that we are modeling. The effect that we obtain is very similar to layering. In the option that the tool offers, we have Clay, Accumulate, and Thin Surface. The first option allows us to add clay. With the active option, the path obtained is flat. With the activated mode, The path is swollen and stretched upwards. The choice to activate or deactivate the clay function is subjective. The accumulate function allows us to accumulate material in order to generate other shapes on top of the model. When the function is deactivated, it is still possible to accumulate material, but in a limited quantity. The inflate tool has some brush settings, but the path looks different. It is often used to make parts in relief, and here too we can choose the radius, the intensity, and check or leave the negative and thin surface settings. With the twist tool, we can select the radius and the thin surface setting. The effect of this tool on the model is very similar to a vortex, and it is also possible to establish its direction by moving the mouse clockwise or anti-clockwise. The smooth tool, as the name explains itself, smooths the surface of the model. With another tool selected, we can select the Smooth tool by holding down the Shift key. This allows us to quickly smooth part of the model without interrupting our workflow. Relax Only is a technical tool that has the task of standardizing the topology on the surface of the model with a minimal effect. In fact, this tool is mainly used to solve topological problems. The flatten, pinch, and crease tools work the same way as the brush tool. We can adjust the radius and the intensity and set the negative and thin surface mode. The drag tool has the task of modeling the object, dragging part of its material inside the workspace and along a path established by us. We can also establish and adjust its radius. With the Paint tool, we have the possibility to color the object. We can establish the radius, the intensity, and the hardness of the painting. PBR materials category, we can select the Paint All option, which colors the object entirely and homogeneously with the selected color. We can choose the color with the color picker by making a tick here or by holding down the S key. We can also select the color by clicking here. And with the sliders below, we can establish the roughness and the metallic of the color. In the right channel category, we can activate and deactivate the color, the roughness, and the metallic option without having to return this slider to 0. So the Move tool aims to stretch the selected area, but it's good to keep in mind that this tool does not add materials and it's not based on a dynamic topology, so it is very easy to pinch and stretch the polygons that make up the model. The masking functions allows us to mark certain areas of our model to exclude them from the use of our tool. We can mask part of the model so as not to modify them or to focus on other areas. So if we select another tool, we can access the Mask tool by holding down the Control key and moving over the object with the mouse while holding down the left button. The Clear options allows us to remove the entire mask from the model. We can carry out this action by positioning the mouse in the work area not occupied by the model, holding down the Control key, and drag by holding down the left mouse button. It is possible to remove the mask by moving the mouse in any direction. We can quickly reverse by pointing the mouse into the empty workspace area, holding down Ctrl key and clicking with the left mouse button. The blur tool makes the mask have a more nuanced looking outline, while the sharpen tool gives the edge at the mask. Both options have a variety of application. For example, blurry outline masks have the ability to create very organic shapes, while sharp outline masks have the ability to create very distinct shapes. The local scale tool allows us to scale part of the object at the selected point. Also, in this case, we can establish the radius and we can activate and deactivate the thin surface option. The last tool is Transform, which allows us to change general characteristics of the model. For example, where to place it or how big or small it is. We can find the Transform function at the end of this menu. But if we select another tool, we can access to Transform tool by clicking on the E key. Once transformation mode is selected, a circle with boxes and arrows will appear. To interact with the different functions of this tool, the shapes must appear yellow. By selecting the outer orange circle and clicking and moving the mouse, we are going to modify the scale of the object. Now let's see the function of these arrows. Scrolling along the different arrows, we will move the object along the X, Y, and Z axis. These squares perform the same actions as the arrows, with the difference that I have a free range where I move on 2 axes instead of 1. Along the arrows of the Transform tool, we find cubes, which have the function of deforming the object, stretching and compressing it along 2 axes. So we can conclude here this guide dedicated to the sculpting and painting section of Sculpt.gl. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time. If you want to stay updated on new guides, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us, subscribe to the channel as a supporter.